Few months ago, French president's posters were on the roads of Bindi Bazaar. I remember that because I had seen some video on Twitter, and all the cars were going over it, and every person was just stepping over it. But why did people do that? Let's get into it. Hello, everyone.
I'm Rahul Devdhar.
I am Prasanna Naidu, and you are listening to the Right Views podcast. So, few months ago, there was a case in France where a teacher was beheaded in front of everyone, like in public, and that was done due to some communal hatred. So, Rahul sir, do you know about that case?
Yes, actually, in fact, we have made a video on that also. So, viewers can also check it out. It was a teacher called Samuel Paty who had shown in the class the Charlie Hebdo cartoons. He was conducting a lecture on free speech and he wanted to show this. So, he had taken permission of the class whether whoever wants to stay can stay and whoever finds this cartoons offensive can leave. And then he had shown the cartoons to the people who had stayed back, and he had discussed something on free speech, whether it is within French values, whatever he has discussed. And that had created some sort of an outrage where there was a religious outrage against this teacher, and there were calls to behead him, and he was in fact beheaded in a very public while walking on a bridge or something. And that triggered a very, very drastic response from the French authorities who have clamped down on a radical Islamist group within France. And they have been trying to sort of shut down some of these mosques which are known to harbor such people and promote such behaviors. So this is the background of that incident.
Yeah. This happened months ago actually, but now I saw in social media some people are again talking about it. So I thought let's discuss this topic today.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know more about Charlie Hebdo. What's that? Is it was he a cartoonist or
Charlie Hebdo is
organization?
actually a magazine. Charlie Hebdo is a magazine which prides itself in making fun of whoever decides they should not be made fun of. So they publish. So if you say so they attack the church, they attack government. They have cartoons on probably. I'm sure they have some cartoons on Indian gods as well. But they do have cartoons, and they published a series of cartoons back in, I don't remember, but many years back. They published a series of cartoons of Prophet Muhammad, and that led to a backlash across the world, and there were calls to sort of punish Charlie Hebdo. Now, this was all fine, but ultimately there was an attack on their office in which some 8 people died or something of that sort. Some people were killed by some 2 or 3 terrorists who attacked their offices. And then there was a very famous hashtag, Je suis Charlie, which means I am also Charlie. That hashtag got very prominently popular amongst the trends, or it was trending for a long time. Charlie Hebdo then decided to publish it again, these cartoons, and there was some backlash and there were some repercussions, but none as serious as the first one. And that has been the case for French media as to freedom of expression within the French society.
So once this beheading happened, there was a lot of talk in the international sphere, and most of the Islamic countries were against France, and some countries even imposed sanctions. And I think Turkey and Pakistan also did that, and they were openly, criticizing Emmanuel Macron, right?
Yes, in fact, Turkey and Pakistan and few countries did ban French products, and Indian social media, as usual, they were asking what French products do Pakistanis buy anyways to ban them. Anyways, but that is a separate issue. But anyways, the point is that yes, they did ban, and that was a reaction to the French police investigation into these radical Islamist group, rather than, so they are in fact not one of them, not one has condemned the beheading of that professor. So in fact, some of these journalists openly asked them, "Do you condemn the killing first?" So they would not condemn. It's unfortunate, they would say. But you see, no, don't say unfortunate. It is unfortunate. That is not condemning. You say, "Ki I denounce that person who killed." I think they were ready to denounce also, but they were not ready to accept that Samuel Paty didn't deserve to die. Something of that sort. So the French reaction is what they were condemning, not the because there was nothing actually had happened. This was a professor in his class discussing cartoons. It was nothing to do with any publishing of now. It's not that the Charlie Hebdo had published it now or anything, but he was killed, and that was what triggered the response from the French government, and that has everyone asking questions: how much freedom of speech should you have? Should you be allowed to question the state, question the religion, question anything? And if so, what kind of society are you looking out for? So, for example, in India, if you make fun of any religious entity, any of the religions, should you let them make fun of it? Should you let them caricature your gods or prophets or whoever in a way that, and should that be allowed? That's a question that everyone needs to ask. And
I think legally we are not allowed to make fun of like any religion or god specifically, as far as India is concerned, and that's why this recent case of Munawar Farooqi happened, right?
that is a separate question, because in when our foundation, the founding fathers or the constitutional assembly was discussing this, there was a big understanding that as a society, first we need to mature, and then once we mature, we can bring in more and more freedom and more rights for the people. And therefore, the question was that for now, we should have some limitations as to what can be considered as insulting speech and what can be considered as free speech. So those things did have an imposition for us. But in France, the question is completely different, because French society has been rebelling against, first they rebelled against the church. Okay. Then they rebelled against the kings. And then they didn't rebel against Napoleon or any of that sort, but they were against monarchy from day one. In fact, that is the basis of French Republic. France it's the French Revolution. American Revolution started first, but if you look at why France is so critical, because the entire rights-based system that you follow today, the Western law, individual rights, individual freedoms, liberty, all of this discussion happened around France. And France, and particularly Paris, was the hub of all this discussion, where Voltaire, Rousseau, so all these ideas, the English ideas, the French ideas, liberal ideas, new ideas, even communism, and all were developed around this belt. And France was the coordination point for all of this. So Rousseau, Voltaire, they were considered to be one of the earliest thinkers on this. Then you have the American thinkers, you have John Locke, you have Bentham, all of these which are British. John Locke, Bentham are from Britain. And all of these people, they came together in that era. And there they sort of evolved the concept of personal liberty as a paramount, individual rights as the core of the new republic. And that is what inspired the American Revolution, that we want a separation from the British monarchy and we want to be our own masters. That's what Americans believed, and that's because America was paying a tax to Britain, which is incidentally the same thing Britain tried to do in India, but they were dealing with American people, and Americans said, if you want tax from us, we want representation. No taxes without representation. That's the first step when they started. And that's what triggered American Revolution there. The French Revolution happened. Russian Revolution again happened. You have all these revolutions happening centered around the ideas which were developed in France. And these ideas essentially were distilled into liberty, equality, and fraternity. And that they hold as sacrosanct. They beheaded their own king and queen to get these laws. So that's the principle on which France was founded. And now we have what we consider to be, refugees from all of these war-torn countries, including Syria, Algeria, and whatnot. And they come in and they create what you call as a separate mini hold within that country. So this country has a mini area. You can call it.
I think you are talking about the Value Islands you had covered in that video, right?
Yes. So these are the Value Islands. But before the Value Islands, these come out as people more comfortable with each other coming together, and they share these values, and they have their own values, and they try to impose their values on others, and that is what creates that Value Islands. Where if you want to enter this area, you should have your head covered. You should have, behave in appropriate garments, and dress sense has to be imposed. Language has to be imposed. Females have to be accompanied by men. And this all is antithetical to French principles. And this is not going to fly in France. And that's what they said. If you want to be in France, you have to live by our values. So, a state is telling you that you cannot have your own personal values. You can have your own personal values, but you cannot impose them on others. So the question then becomes, these values, the personal value system within Islam is completely antithetical to French value systems, and that creates a clash. Because French value system means France, the government of France and the Constitution of France and everything will believe that the person has a freedom of choice of religion. Whereas a person from Islamic origin or a Muslim, he will not believe that he has a freedom to change his religion. And that immediately starts the clash. So the French equivalence, the French sort of workaround on this is that you can follow your religion at home, we don't care. But don't bring it in the public domain. In the public domain, French values will matter, which means you are not allowed to. They had a big controversy about burkini, which is basically a swimsuit combined with a burqa.
Oh my God.
So it's a bikini plus burqa, it's burkini or burkini, whatever you want to call it. So it is basically, they had a big they said, you are not allowed to do that. You can either wear a swimsuit, you can wear whatever, but not. But how do you control that? So you cannot control that, and that created another clash between personal values. If I have chosen a regressive value set.
No, but this doesn't make sense to me. Anyone who wants to wear anything, it's that choice.
Exactly.
That's fine. He wears burqa, she wears burkini or whatever.
Exactly. So this is where it became a clash of French values versus a choice of person's own choice. But then the question France was asking is, what is their real choice? Are they allowed to make a real choice? If they don't want to wear this, if they don't want to wear that, are they allowed to freely choose? That is the question. And it's contentious. It's actually contentious because if let's say I have a freedom, if you have given me freedom, I have a freedom not to do it also, right? If you have given me freedom to wear anything, if I am not wearing any clothes also, the French government doesn't interfere. That's the liberty of France. If you go without any clothes also, they will not interfere. It's a basic decency. If you go in a short pant or something, you will not be. So they don't do that. So then, if you fully clothe yourself, will they do that? And are they allowed? So it's not allowed. The state cannot interfere in personal choices. That's the rule of France. But at the same time, personal value system cannot be imposed on anyone. That is also a law. So this kind of debate is what France is having at the moment. And I'm not saying France has got it right or France has got it solved. But France is having that discussion. And I think that whatever France chooses, people in Europe are listening and they are watching what is happening in France. And they will be copying that solution. Because whatever has happened in Sweden, whatever has happened in Germany, and people are not talking about these incidents, they are sort of hiding them. These are refugees who have molested, who have committed some crimes of sexual nature on the local women. And those women are being ridiculed. And that is not going to help in any way. My point is, just as what happened in America or what is happening across the world, if you silence some voices, okay, it doesn't help. It doesn't release that pressure. You have to let those voices be heard. And now there are areas where there is a clash is visible. Some people are claiming that there are ghettos within Sweden. Some people are saying where police even don't go. Other people say, these people are lying. Police can go anywhere. But it doesn't seem so. I mean, people have recorded some of these, interactions. And it doesn't seem so. So, at least some, it's easy to make such allegations and run away. There are ghettos in Sweden. But then there should be many people trying to expose this truth. There are no ghettos. Are there ghettos? Let many people make videos, I'm going everywhere and there is no problem. So, this is not happening. In fact, the local immigrant community, these migrants who have come from Syria and all these places, they should make a video. Then they are proud of the fact that nobody is coming into these areas without proper dress code and all this. So, if they are not doing that, then they should proudly make a video that everyone is freely going and coming everywhere. And this is happening in all of these European countries, and it's been happening for quite some time now. And these voices of local Europeans, the non-refugees, are being silenced. And that is not going to help in my view. The minute you silence these voices, there is an underground movement of sorts which creates these fake news. So within that news, half may be fake news, half may be truth. But if you don't release that truth, you will harbor many more fake news. For example, initially when news came in India that Germany was committing a lot of atrocities on the Jews, Indians didn't believe it. Because in the First World War, British had created this propaganda campaign that Germany's soldiers are basically using bayonets and killing babies in Belgium and France. And after the war, First World War, where Indian soldiers had also fought, when they came back and stories really came back, people realized that this is all propaganda, British propaganda. So next time when actually Hitler did, people wouldn't believe the British media. And this is exactly what is happening in US also. The people sort of did not voice the Middle America. And then Middle America made theories that Trump's election win has been stolen by Biden, and let's storm the Capitol and whatnot they made up, and then they reached, and all these kinds of conspiracy theories got popular. And the same thing is happening in Europe. Conspiracy theories are being propagated. Thankfully, in our farmer protests, we did not silence any of these idiots. So they, after all these Yogendra Yadav types, they kept on making their own propaganda, and then they fell into their own traps. and then people realize that this is not worth it. People still haven't realized, but censoring them will definitely make people believe them rather than other way.
I didn't get that. Can you just...
So if you censor someone, then you will actually make people believe that why would they censor this person? There must be some truth to it, and that's how the conspiracy theory starts. When people know that you're not censoring anything, then people realize of course this news would have come out, or at least like in India, if there is some inkling of a violence, the media comes out first. Even if by chance a tree falls, they'll say tree has been cut, and then there will be a massive someone threw stones at a church, and they created a big thing. Churches are under attack. When they realized these vandals were also from the church only, and they had thrown these stones at the church, so they were the same people, and it was dispute amongst themselves. But so immediately such kind of stories will be aired, and even when they air it, people say there must be some other side, let's check it first. You should not believe all these media fellows. This is what India is. So freedom, you should not curtail this thing, otherwise people just start their own conspiracy theories, and then there is enough creativity in people to create wild conspiracy theories. So in France, they believe this is the value, that you should criticize, you should publish, you should do what you want. And these are the values of France: liberty, equality, and fraternity. So long as you don't impose on anyone, you are free to do. In fact, sometimes it feels that they are free to do, far too many things. They should not be free to do so many things. But they say that this is how our nation was born, and these are the values of our nation. So we are not going to compromise on those. And that is what brought their king down. That is what they fought for all these years. So they are not going to give up those things. And France has been the nucleus of what values get adopted by the rest of Europe. Even though France has been militarily, like they have been in the middle, sort of. Like they have been attacked by Germany and all these things, but their values form the core of European values. So whatever France decides and whatever they do, you will find that Europeans have started adopting that same values. So now today we have seen Germany, Sweden, they have something called socializing camps. So whenever new immigrants come in, refugees come in, they are taught as to how to socialize, how to interact with local people and all that.
Okay, so we got a rough idea about what you're talking, but what happened in Bhindi Bazaar and why? I mean, people walking, like stepping on the face of the French president, don't even know that this guy is the president of France.
No, actually, in India, it's very easy to create anti or a sentiment which is anti someone. Okay, you just have to take he insulted someone, and immediately there will be posters and whatever. And secondly, it is a very important thing that Islamic and particularly Indian Islamic scholars need to understand and debate as to how are the values of Islam going to be adopted and applied into the modern context. So in the modern context, you have the nation and the nationality comes first. So if you believe that, and that is the premise of India, and that is why there was a separation between India and Pakistan, where Pakistan believed that their religion came before their nation. So that's why they adopted Pakistan, which is considered to be the Islamic land.
I think the name Hindustan was not propagated by us, like,
no,
or any leader who wanted
Hindustan is not a name. Hindustan was the entire Bharat, what we call is Hindustan only. So it is basically any part of the region around the river Indus and onwards till Himalayas. So on the from Indus to Himalayas is India. That's what, or Hindustan. That is Hindustan. But the premise of separation of India was that Pakistan believed that their religion comes first, and India, whoever chose to stay in India, and Indians, they believe the nation comes first. So that is our premise. It's not a Hindu country for that reason. It's the nation which comes first. So your nationality gets prominence more than your religion. But however, the mullahs in India are desperately trying to change that, where they are trying to influence the community into saying that we are still the Muslims of the universe are all in the one country, empire of mind. And that's why they talk about atrocities in Palestine, atrocities in, against anything against Muslims, they talk in India. They have nothing else to do. They don't talk about their own atrocities, like atrocities which are, they are poor. They don't want to.
Yeah, their own problems.
Their own problems. They are not educated. They don't get proper technical education. They don't allow young Muslims to be educated in proper schools and colleges and, pursue their degree in the proper manner and get into the mainstream. So that mainstreaming. So in America, they have a concept called melting pot. So this melting pot means whoever your nationality is, whatever it is, you come to America and you adopt American way of life and you become American. So this is a melting pot. It is called melting pot mechanism. Similarly, in Europe also there was like you adopt the local customs, you adopt the local lifestyle. So you might be in a unique cultural bent of mind, but when you are in Switzerland, you behave like a local Swiss and you act in a local way as other Swiss. So which means you will be using cheese and all that. Whatever is your preference, you are allowed, but those are the local things that you will adopt. So this is again some sort of adopting of local culture and becoming mainstream within that culture. And that is being stopped by the mullahs. Even if you go to any place, in fact, Chinese are notorious for not blending in with the local culture. They don't even speak the language. Indians are very good at blending in the local culture because Indians speak English, so they speak whatever local language and they pick up and they sort of get assimilated as much as possible into the local customs. Chinese don't do that. So that's why there are Chinatowns. So now we are also starting little Indias. That's not a good thing. You should mingle and merge with the local culture wherever you are. It's not it's part of our thing.
Yeah, like we have in India also. I don't know how people may interpret it, but I am on a positive note. Most of the Muslims who are living in this country are actually not living so like mingled with other
Mainstream.
cultures, other religions.
Yes.
Like they have pockets where only their community resides, right? Even after partition.
Yes, and that is not. I mean that there are different reasons for that. So first of all, because this is what happened. So when you separated the educational institutions based on religion, what happened was that you created educational achievements restricted or they were guided by religious principles. And that created a problem for Muslims communities because Christians have their own educational, which is in line with Western concepts. So we are fine with that. Hindus are not allowed to have any concepts of their own because government doesn't allow us. So we adopted the Christian way, which is
Hindu temples are also governed by government.
Yeah, so we don't have that freedom. So we adopted the Western education system and we used it basically. So that is what
we say. Oh my God, prayer every day in convent schools.
Yeah, and that is because convents are the only ones allowed. And we don't see, we are, Hindus are not allowed in India. Only Christians and Muslim schools have the freedom to set up the schools that they want.
Yeah.
Muslims are setting up schools which we don't want to go.
Hmm.
Or no one from the progressive, they are not teaching, Newtonian physics or Einstein. If they started teaching, like really high-end mathematics and all these kinds of things, I'm sure people would have been studying in those schools. Christian schools are not that great, but at least they are teaching what is accepted globally. And our educational standards are also set alongside the Western education system these days. So we have those systems. Christian schools are aligned with those systems. Other non-religious schools are aligned with those systems. So Hindus prefer to go to those schools. But because Muslims did not go into these schools, their economic achievements have not been more widespread. So what you find that if you see the top Muslim income generator or whatever, the richest Muslim, his wealth is as on par with any other community. If you take the most poorest Muslim, his poverty is on par with any other religious poverty, poor Christian, any other community poor you take, and his poverty levels match. But the median, the average Muslim, he is not as rich as the average, other communities because of this educational distance.
Yeah, so very few privileged Muslims who got the correct opportunities, they are growing, like not only in terms of wealth but other.
See, if you get educated, you have as same opportunities as anyone else in this country.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that is so. Many of these Muslims realize that they have no educational degree, but they have a skill. Whatever their skill is, they can. Let's say there was a person who was a mason or a electrician. So he had a skill of electricians. He went to Dubai and these Middle East countries. He worked as an electrician. He got rich because his skill was valued. And if he is qualified, he can get access to all this wealth. But the question is, he has to be qualified first. And for that's why Kerala became more education driven. Now it is more becoming radicalized in the past 20 years. But if you see in the 1960s, 70s and 80s, you find that there is a lot of educational push in Kerala across religions. That's the good part of communism. Okay, they just make good schools and they teach the wrong things, but they make good schools so that your mathematics, sciences are at least proper, hopefully. Okay, so they got these degrees in whatever basic skills they were able to earn, and that's what created that wealth for them. And if you let these people get those skills across the country, you will find that they have enough opportunities and their average income will also improve. And that's why the government is starting that, scheme where Modi is giving scholarships to Muslims. People are saying, you are stupid. Why are you only promoting Muslims? It's not like that. If you rise in the income ladder, then you feel more mainstream.
Yeah.
And that is also not true if you allow these radical groups to be active in your area. So all the 9/11 terrorists were doctors and engineers and all these highly educated people. So this de-radicalization is one important part. But at the same time, economic and educational and other skill related improvement is the other leg. On these two legs, you will find that the community will improve. And France always believed in, if you go to France, you will be educated, there is no problem there. But this de-radicalization was missing. So now France is starting to actively engage in de-radicalization and mainstreaming of these refugees. And that is what, if they do it properly, and if they actually, and they are good at it, it's not like they are bad at it, but if they do it and these other countries don't interfere, then you will have an assimilated, well-evolved, rich as in wealthier okay, a prosperous community, and which will be integrated, which will not then see once you are in the mainstream, you can't make out any person based on anything. So that is the beauty of it. I think that they are on the right track if they de-radicalize and promote on the economic and educational side. You will find that they will have created a template which Germany and Europe can adopt. India, I think, if India is active on de-radicalization, then India will be able to do it. Thankfully, some of the Muslims only are taking up de-radicalization and mainstreaming, which is not getting enough attention.
Yeah, exactly.
But what we get attention is all the wrong kind of people get attention, and we feel that this is what is happening. But no, there are many people who are bringing a lot of young educated. First, they are educating those Muslim kids, and then bringing into the mainstream in a proper way. So they are working in IT, they are working in normal Indian jobs like that. And you will not be able to differentiate between that person and any other person you meet, which is how it should be. Like if you go to High Court, you can't make out who is a Muslim lawyer or a Hindu lawyer. You will not be able to make out, and you shouldn't be able to make out. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
If you are able to make out, there is some radical element going on like that.
Okay, let's hope for the best and see some positive reforms in future, not only in France and Europe but also in India. On that note, let's end this episode. Thank you all for listening to us, and do follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and check out our website. Thank you.
Thank you.